So let's cultivate our motivation. So especially when attending teachings or doing pujas or any kind of specific Dharma activities, as well as in the rest of our lives, we need to be very grounded in our spiritual practice and know what our objects of refuge are, whose guidance we're following, what the path is, what the result is. And so this requires learning and study. It's not just a question of sitting down, closing our eyes, and watching the breath. All of this mental clarity does not come simply from that. And similarly, in the context of teachings, everybody involved has to have a positive intention towards everybody else. So the teacher has to really care about the students, want to help them on the path. And the students have to have respect and gratitude and confidence that what they're learning from the text and from their teacher will help them. So you can see just there's a lot of qualities that we need to develop just to properly listen to teachings or to give teachings. And then, of course, the motivation for doing those actions really needs to be one of compassion, a motivation to create harmony in our minds and the minds of others. We're not here to compete on who knows the most. We're here to transform our minds so we can make a positive contribution to the welfare of all living beings, and so we can continually advance on the path so that we can make that contribution more and more as time goes on. So cultivate your bodhicitta motivation. So whether we're leading meditation or being the MC for an event or making announcements, even people come and visit, we need to have a motivation of wanting to benefit them. Yeah. And any kind of sneakiness in our motivation, like I'm the person in the front of the room, so they're going to think I'm more important here. That kind of motivation has to be done away with. Now, We're not here to be the most important. We're not here, if we start thinking, I have a special way of leading meditations that's so good, or I can make announcements very clearly better than other people can, or the way I lead discussions is so clear, and people will know me for what I do. Yeah. All of that is just worldly junk, isn't it? Yeah. So we have to be on the outlook for that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so this is what Dharma practice involves. It's again and again observing the mind and correcting the motivation, the intention, the thoughts that are operating in our mind. Okay, so practicing Dharma isn't ringing bells and, playing the drum and chanting in Tibetan and this kind of stuff. It's really transforming the mind. Yeah, and nobody can transform our own mind but us. Yeah. So when we feel like our mind isn't in the right space, there's no sense blaming anybody else, because they can't crawl inside of us and change our mood. Yeah. They can influence us, but, really changing our thought and our mood is what we have to do. Yeah. Otherwise, we give our power away, and I'm only in a good mood when so-and-so does this and that. And whenever people act like hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo, then I'm in a bad mood. Yeah. So then we can't do anything, can we? We're entirely dependent on how other people act and what they say for our moods. Yeah. So then, then what? Yeah, we can't do anything. Yeah. And then we get into, complaining and trying to control everybody else. And that brings its own set of problems, doesn't it? Yeah. As soon as we try and control other people. But we don't say, I'm trying to control people. I'm trying to let them know how we can get along better. Yeah? Okay. So we've just been talking, we're still in chapter 5. We've been talking about, until now, in the last few verses, about the Dharma and how to give the Dharma, how to, to others, and talking about our body, how to give the body, or how not to give the body if we're not fully equipped to do it. Okay. And so, teaching people in correct situations, you don't go into somebody's bedroom to give them teachings. That's not the way it's done. We teach or, do something according to the interests and needs of that person. So we don't teach them something that's so advanced that they get discouraged or, constantly, repeat what they already know when they actually need to get pushed in a way so that they'll understand that a little bit better or understand something new. Okay, so we have to, be able to have a sensitivity about how to guide people. And definitely when we don't know the answer to a question, we need to say, I don't know. Okay? Yeah. Or if we're giving our own opinion on something, we preface it with, this is my opinion. We don't state it as, this is the truth that the Buddha said. Okay, this is my opinion of what this means. Okay. And so definitely not making up our own theories about emptiness and the nature of reality and all this, so that you please people, because there can be really the thing that when you're teaching or leading meditations or whatever, you want everybody to be happy afterwards. And if people don't like something that you're saying, then it's like, oh, then I better change it so that they're happy with what I'm saying. And that can become very dangerous, because then we start feeding, we are not saying what the Buddha taught. We are saying what will make somebody else feel happy, which could be, some other doctrine altogether that we alone have discovered, and it is now in the New Age newspaper. Okay, so now verse 91, he's going into, other practical advice. So if you can't understand emptiness, this stuff we can understand. Okay, now whether we will do it or not is another question. Okay, because I don't like that advice. Okay, when I spit or throw away the stick for cleaning my teeth, I should cover it up with earth. What do you mean? Yeah, when I spit, I should cover it up, and I should throw my toothbrush away every time after I brush my teeth, or bury it in the garden. Okay, in ancient India and in contemporary India, people spit on the street. Okay, in our country, it's not such some people do that, but it's looked at as kind of uncouth. So, better to carry tissues, don't spit in the street. Okay, in ancient India, there was a special stick that they used to clean their teeth. They didn't have Colgate toothbrushes or Oral-B toothbrushes. There's a special stick that you chew on, and that cleans your teeth. And so when you throw it away, you don't put it in the path for, other people to look at and trip over. Yeah, you bury it. Okay, so, there's some things that are being taught according to the culture. We have to adjust it to our culture. Okay, so here it's okay to spit. For us, if we went walking up and down the streets of Newport going, the Abbey would develop a certain reputation that wouldn't be so good. Okay, so, the idea is that you correspond with the manners of the place in which you're living. Okay, in India too, even now, people pee by the roadside, especially the men. Here you'll get arrested if you pee by the roadside. Okay. Also, it is shameful to urinate and so forth in water or on land used by others. Yeah, you use a toilet. Now, in ancient India, they didn't really have toilets. And in some places, the toilet is really merely designated. It doesn't necessarily perform that function. Okay. But, we try and again be discreet and not do things that disturb other people. Okay. When I eat, I should not fill my mouth, eat noisily, or with my mouth wide open. Okay. So this is also manners in our culture, but we do see people stuff their mouth and eat noisily, especially when you serve chips. Have you ever noticed how noisy the dining room is when people serve chips? And some people more than others, they're chip chewing, like really, I don't know what to do about that. Yeah, that's up to you to figure out. Okay, but we shouldn't stuff our mouth, eat noisily, or chew with our mouth wide open. Okay, that's also in our culture, isn't it? Yeah. And we also should eat in a relaxed manner, not like eat real quickly so that we can get it all in. Some people may have grown up in families or in certain living situations where you had to eat really quickly so that you could go back and get more. Or, some people, if the plate is here, they're like this, and it's like you have to protect your food so that nobody else is going to eat it. The guys in prison and probably in, some other kinds of homes and all, group homes, then, there's this feeling of I've got to protect my food. So, but here, at least in the monastery, I don't think anybody is going to snatch anybody else's food, although, unexpected things happen. Yeah, maybe Upekkha and Karuna are going to come in and, decide they like broccoli, and there goes your broccoli, and then we can register them in the Guinness Book of World Records for cats that like broccoli. Okay, so, try and eat with good manners. Yeah. And in our culture, there are certain foods you eat with your fingers and certain foods you don't. In India, even nowadays, people very often eat with their hands. You eat with your right hand. You don't eat with your left hand if you're in India. Okay, but you eat with your right hand. And people often do that in restaurants. That's part of the culture. It's okay to do that. Here you can eat pizza and French fries like that. Yeah, but if you started, picking up your macaroni and cheese, or, people may look askance. Okay, I should not sit with my legs outstretched nor rub my hands together. Okay, so in the meditation hall, we don't stretch our legs out towards the statues and the texts, but to the side. Now, guests who come don't know that. They don't know that etiquette. So sometimes we just have to help them and say, you may not know that, but part of our etiquette in the hall is we don't stretch our legs out towards the front of the room, but towards the side of the room. Okay? So the best way, whenever you have to give somebody some etiquette advice is, you give them a way out. Like, you may not know this, but this is our custom here, So, yeah, of course, they may not know Buddhist custom. That's okay. So that's why we're helping them. Okay. Similarly, when we chant after lunch, we should be sitting up straight. We shouldn't be, leaning back with our feet stretched out, like, oh, I just ate so much, but sit up straight when we're chanting. And, we shouldn't be looking around the room when we're chanting either. Yeah, either be reading the board, lower your eyes so you can focus on, or lower your eyes and what you can focus on what you're chanting. Okay, but we shouldn't be kind of looking around at everybody else. Sometimes the chanting starts before you've finished chewing your last bite or washing your mouth or whatever, and you have to do that. But that's something else. If you don't do that, then you continue chanting and the food is spraying. Okay. No, rub my hands together. That one I'm not so, I think that means just going like this a lot in public, that's not something that we do so much. Okay. But always watch, our physical posture. And guys should not mansplaining is talking, manspreading. Yeah, I don't know, but keep to your own seat. Keep your legs in. Okay, 93. I should not sit alone in vehicles, upon beds, nor in the same room with the women of others, or, for women, with the men of others, or with men or women in general, okay, whether they're married and in a relationship or not. We don't, sit on the same bed, sit on the same couch, something like that. I noticed it at one monastery we went to, in their kind of hangout room, there were sofas, and people would sit on the sofas. And we've gotten rid of our sofas pretty much, so that, people sit on individual chairs. It just makes it much easier. In terms of vehicles, again, it's always better to have somebody else in the vehicle, or if you're traveling and somebody's picking you up, make sure it's somebody you know. Sometimes it's not always possible to have somebody or pick you up, but I think it's fair to say to the Dharma Center, if you're a woman, please ask a woman to pick me up. If you're a man, please ask a man to pick me up. Yeah. When we were flying to Lehigh for His Holiness's teachings in Pennsylvania, this was some years ago, and I had to go early, and Venerable Chuni was arranging the rides, and she had me riding in the car. I was arriving at like 11:30 at night, or no, 10:30 at night, still late at night, and some man I didn't know was picking me up, and I said, no, you got to call the people back and arrange for something else. Even my mother wouldn't let a strange man pick me up at the airport at 10:30 at night. Yeah. So, we have to sometimes really educate Dharma centers on how to do things. And similarly, if you're planning for somebody else or if you're going yourself, make sure you're not staying at the flat of, somebody of the opposite sex or somebody you might be sexually attracted to when you're the only person there. When I was teaching in, where was it? Oh, it was in Belarus, in Minsk. Yeah, there was a group there, and they wanted me to stay at the nicest place. So it was one guy had a flat, and so they arranged for me to stay at his flat. He was the only person there. I didn't learn that until he opened the door, and then trying to be very courteous, he started unzipping my jacket. That he was, the men in this part of the world, and I just went, and then when I went to use the bathroom, who's in the bathroom? Some Playboy bunny, a huge, bigger than life Tonka of not a Tonka, a photograph of a Playboy bunny, And it was like, I'm in the wrong place. But we got there at night, because I had gone to the teaching first, and then there was nothing to do. So I just made sure I was sleeping in another room, and, I locked that door and put some chairs in front of it. So, yeah, it's very interesting when you travel and teach, because you don't have control over a lot of stuff, and you get put in all sorts of places, and some places are really nice, and some places, like in Jambi, yeah, it's the, yeah. Or not only in Jambi, in that place in where was it? It was in Malaysia, outside in it was in Butterfield. Yeah, where we were staying in some place where the ceilings were like that hard. You were there, that high above our face, all made of wood. The windows had bars on them. Everything was wood. If there was a fire in that building, we would have been goners. There was no way for us to get out. Yeah. So, you wind up in a situation, very interesting. Yeah. And so you have to navigate these situations with finesse. You can't be rude and say, this place, like, why are you putting me in here? You want me to burn to death? Yeah, I'm not Joan of Arc, please. You don't say that. So some things you just kind of go along with, But then other things, if I ever go to Minsk again, I am going to make very clear to the people, So this is sometimes the advantage of having an assistant who plans your travel, because it's much easier for the assistant to check these things than for you to check it when you're there, after they've fixed it all up. So, yeah, anyway, it's very interesting. Yeah, one time they put me in a temple alone, and the room I was staying in, the door locked behind me, and I woke up in the morning and I had to go to the bathroom and I couldn't get out of the room. Yeah, and so I was pounding the door, hoping somebody would come, but nobody else was in the building, One time in Mexico also, they locked me in the Dharma Center. And another time in Malaysia, they were going to lock me in the Dharma Center, but I was smart that time. And I said, no, you give me a pair of keys. Yeah, so I need to have a way out in case there's danger. But instead, what they did in that place is they hired a taxi, from a taxi company that supposedly they knew about. But the guy who was driving me didn't know how to get to the airport. We didn't speak the same language. We're driving all over KL, and he's pulling in here and pulling in there. And I have no idea where he's going and what he's doing. And so I asked, let me out of the car, and he wouldn't let me out of the car. Finally, we made it to the airport, but I was getting really desperate. Yeah, because I didn't know he was pulling into different places, supposedly to ask for directions, but, one was a housing complex, one was something else, and that was it's scary. Yeah, so just be prepared. Yeah. So, we're not supposed to carry money, but I think when you travel, we have to have some money or a credit card or something, because you can get yourself, when people don't know how to treat monastics properly, or just treat people in general courteously, forget being a monastic, then we need to be able to do something. Okay, so we don't sit, here sometimes it happens, two people, are going to the dentist today, a monk and a nun. That's not such serious business. They're driving to the dentist, driving back, that's it. Okay, but, in general, you wouldn't want to go on a longer trip or, again, be out at night alone. Yeah, I heard of one monk. Yeah, I'll save this story for our Vinaya class. Okay, so in brief, having observed or inquired about what is proper, I should not do anything that would be disliked by the people of the world. Okay, so here, either we're traveling, we observe how people act and what's proper or not, or we inquire about it. What is suitable? Okay, and then having that knowledge, we don't do anything that would be disliked by the people of the world. Okay, in other words, we, don't spit on the sidewalk. We don't yell and scream and, in public. Things that are considered rude in society, And when we're dealing with people in different businesses or whatever, to speak to them politely, and be kind. And sometimes we need to push. Yeah, we often need to push to get certain things done, but you can push politely. Yeah, you don't have to be aggressive and yell. Although, what did we do when we were building the meditation hall? Venerable Semke, we had the contractor for the meditation hall he forgot to put the glue lambine in, and he was coming up with one excuse after the other why he and his men were not here working. And so we sat down one evening, and who was it? Nerea and you and me and a couple of other people, and we all talked about how our mothers would handle the situation. Okay. Because we learn a lot from our parents and watching what they do. And we were laughing hysterically because, our mothers all had different ways of, what you do to get somebody to come and do what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah. I forgot what we eventually decided on, which technique.
I think it was a cross between Adele and Jenny.
Okay.
Ferocious.
Jenny was going to throw a frying pan or something.
That's right, and she'd stand there with her hands on her hip and give Jim the evil eye, and then Adele would just go off and
scream.
And scream. We just kind of put the fear of the world into this poor person, and he did. He ended up coming through and doing what he needed to do, but he really needed to be talked to very directly.
Yeah.
Without pulling any punches.
Yeah, because sometimes we think, we have to be sweet and compassionate to everybody. But then, the building doesn't get built. Because, sometimes, what did they say? A squeaky wheel gets the attention. So sometimes we need to squeak. And, you don't need to squeak in an obnoxious way. But you need to squeak. Otherwise, you get put at the bottom of the list by people who are very busy. Okay, so you have to sit and generate compassion, not frustration, not anger, not wanting to slap them, not wanting to scream at them, not wanting to give the job to somebody else to do, but, with taking responsibility, having a kind mind, and speaking in a straightforward way. Yeah. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a meditation hall even now, 16, 17 years later. Okay. 94, I should not give directions with one finger, but instead indicate the way respectfully with my right arm, with all my fingers fully outstretched. Okay? So in our culture, people point. You. How do you feel when somebody points like this at you? Yeah. It's not such a nice feeling sometimes. Yeah. Unless it's, you go get the ice cream and you get to eat it first before everybody else. Oh, then yes, point at me all you want. But, generally pointing it also in our culture isn't considered so polite. Although some people do that. In Indian and Tibetan culture, you indicate with your whole hand. And it's really nice. It gives people a whole different feeling. And once I was giving a talk, one of my friends was a professor at DePaul and asked me to give a talk in her classroom. And so it's just my habit very often, to use my hand because that's what I was taught. And afterwards, she noticed that. She said, "Oh, it was so nice the way you pointed out to people like this." Yeah, it surprised me that she noticed, but it reminded me that even in our culture, people prefer something with your whole hand, or if you're giving directions like that. Unless you need to say that building, well, even that building over there, you can use your whole hand. Okay. If you don't know the way to somewhere, don't make it up. Okay. In India, people, they don't want to disappoint you. And even though they may not know where you are going, they will give you directions to get there. And you will wind up more lost than you were before. Okay. So don't do that. And they say that, in some cultures, if you ask on the street how to get there, people will actually walk with you there. But they say Americans will not do that. Yeah. It's like, well, let's go there. Yeah. But, if we have time or whatever, it can be nice if it's just down the street, to give somebody directions and accompany them there, especially if they don't know the language or they're really lost. And people remember that kind of thing. Yeah, when people go out of the way to help you, you remember it. Okay. So we indicate with our right hand. Nor should I wildly wave my arms about, unless you're trying to make a point when you're giving teachings, that people should not wave their arms around. Okay. Oh, that felt good for my back. Okay. So, nor should I wildly wave my arms about, but should make my point with the slight gestures and a snap of my fingers. Although snapping our fingers in our culture isn't a big deal. In India, or in Tibetan culture, actually, if you're a Rinpoche and you want to call your attendant, often you snap your fingers or you clap your hands, or sometimes they'll have a bell on their table. Okay. Otherwise, I shall lose control. So what this is saying is, when we're in public and doing things, we should we should be, what's the word? We shouldn't be all over the place, okay? Yeah, and especially like at the airport or someplace, you haven't seen a relative or an old friend. Hello, how are you? For people who are refugees who finally get in the country and they're united with their dear ones, yes, we love to see them run up to their dear ones and cry and hug them and make a scene. It's very touching to watch them. But normally, that's not our situation. And so in airports or other places, we shouldn't be screaming or wildly, hi, hello, throw your arms around somebody. Okay. Yeah. So not behaving in an uncontrolled manner. Okay. And, he's pointing out some specific ways here, but I'm sure there's tons of other examples. And we probably aren't even aware of them. Yeah. Like you need to save a parking space. So you're driving around and you're in the passenger seat and your friend says, get out right now and save that parking space. And you jump out and you stand there like this. Nobody else is taking this parking space. Okay, you need to save the parking space, but you do it kind of more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not politely. Gracefully. Well, yeah, more gracefully. Yeah. Okay. And then 96, just as the Buddha lay down to pass away, so should I lie. So should I lie in the desired direction when going to sleep. And first of all, with alertness, make the firm decision to quickly rise again. Okay, so this is how the Buddha, we're encouraged to, when we sleep, lie in the position that the Buddha lay in. Lay is past tense. The Buddha lay in when he passed away. So on your right side, with your hand under your cheek. If you can, they say good to put your ring finger and block the nostril. You do as many of these things as you can, And then this hand is on your side, and you're lying on your right side, okay? So we're advised to sleep like that. If you can, that's good. If, something is hurting or whatever, then you have to adjust somewhat. Don't sleep on your stomach. Yeah, we're advised against sleeping on their stomach. Usually they say have your head, the top of your head facing north. But if your bedroom is not arranged like that, then you imagine that your head is facing north. Okay, and then as you're falling asleep, it's good to have some kind of Dharma thought in your mind, or to think that the Buddha is on your pillow and you're putting your head, near him, and then very gentle light, calming light is coming into you, so that not bright light, that'll keep you up, but, a very soothing light, and you can fall asleep easily. And before you fall asleep, have the intention to, get up at a certain time. Yeah. Otherwise, the alarm goes off and it's like, I'm too tired. Or you don't even hear the alarm or whatever it is. So it's good to have in your mind, I will rise in such and such a time. And it's amazing how the body kind of does that. I don't know about you, but I find in the summers, I wake up before my alarm. I don't know what it is in the summer, but, you just wake up earlier, which is nice. in the winter when it's dark and it's cold, even though our rooms are heated, I really have to get out of bed now. 5 minutes, hours later. Okay. And then when we first wake up in the morning, again, generate our motivation. Today, I won't harm others as much as possible. I will help them as much as possible. I will increase my bodhichitta and contemplate wisdom as much as I can. And then His Holiness also advises reciting one verse to the Buddha. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the sacred Dharma to dispel all distorted or all wrong views. To you, Gautami Buddha, I bow. It's in volume 1. And, he advises us, when we first wake up, to in that way renew our refuge with the Buddha. Okay. 97. And then it's nice, as soon as you get up, to make 3 prostrations to your altar. Sometimes if you're really stiff, or you just had a hip replacement, you can't make your prostrations as soon as you get out of bed because nothing's bending properly. So you have to move a little bit and then, 5 minutes later do your prostration. So sometimes you have to go to the bathroom really quickly. So you can go like this and run and then come back and make your 3 prostrations. Okay, the 97, although I am unable to practice all the limitless varieties of Bodhisattva conduct, I should certainly practice as much as has been mentioned here of this conduct that trains the mind. Okay, so the Bodhisattva conduct is very expansive. We may not know it all, let alone even be able to practice all of it. But he's saying, whatever has been taught so far in this book, we should really keep in mind and try and practice. Okay, and not just what came before, but what comes later in the book. And, whenever we get teachings, they always teach us the ideal of how it should be. And so sometimes we hear the ideal and we think, oh, I have to do everything exactly like that. And if I don't do it like that, then I'm a failure. No. Because remember, they teach us the ideal, because if they didn't teach us that, we wouldn't know what to aim for. Yeah. If they only taught us, manners like here, then because that's all we could handle right now. I mean, when you're a little kid, they don't teach you where to put your knife and fork and spoon and all these kind of things. They're just trying to help you get the food from your high chair into your mouth instead of all over the floor. So, but, you watch as a baby how people eat and you learn, kind of the ideal way of doing things. And then we do what we're capable of doing. And as we do what we're capable of, we become capable of doing more. Okay, so that's what this is getting at. Okay, so Shantideva taught us a lot to help us make us more mindful of not only our precepts, but of etiquette and manners in whatever society we're in. And, so to try and practice that as much as we can. And as we practice it, we'll develop more finesse with things. Okay. It's also very good too, because there's a lot of etiquette kind of things, like when you go to visit your teacher, what do you do, and so on. And so it's good for the people who've been around for a while to instruct the people who are new about how to do that. Yeah. So that they know. And what's polite in Tibetan culture, what's polite in Western culture, these kinds of things. So to learn that, and because if you go and visit a Tibetan Lama, if you just kind of, stride in and, hi, Lama, that's not the way to do it, if you just kind of stride in and, sit down on the nicest chair, then that's not how it's done. And that doesn't you're not putting your best foot forward. Okay. So to learn the etiquette for how to do these kinds of things. Yeah. And the people who know have the responsibility to teach the younger people. Yeah. Because when you come in, you don't know what to do. Yeah. Do you? And nobody expects you to know what to do. But some people may think you've been around a lot longer and, why hasn't this person learned by now when you're still new? So it's good to help people. Yeah. Okay. And like when you're walking in India, if there's some high lama, you move aside and they go first. You don't go, well, I'm tired of this stuff of women walking behind. I'm just going to go. Or, that, no. It's always err in the way of being more polite. Okay, then 98. 3 times by day and 3 times by night, I should recite the Sutra of the 3 heaps. That's the prostration, the downfall, Bodhisattva's ethical downfall, the 35 prostrations. 35 prostrations to the 35 Buddhas. Okay, so that sutra. For by relying upon the Buddhas and the Bodhichitta, my remaining downfalls will be purified. So recognizing that we do that practice, we recite that sutra 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the evening. Yeah. If you can, really good. If you have other practices you need to do, then if you're doing Vajrasattva, maybe do Vajrasattva or whatever. Okay. But it's a wonderful practice. And like I say, for people, try and do your 100,000 prostrations before you get too old. Yeah. Because if you're too old, then, your knees are cracking and the noise disturbs other people. And, you're falling on the floor, kerplunk. And then when you get up, you're panting. Yeah. So, but aside from that, it's just, it's easier on your own body if you do it when you're young and healthy. And doing that practice is really quite good. It eliminates a lot of obscurations, a lot of difficulties in our practice. Okay, verse 99, of whatever I am doing in any situation, whether for myself or for the benefit of others, I should strive to put into practice whatever has been taught for that situation. Okay, so there's a lot of teachings for different situations. And so he's saying here, whatever situation we're in, whether we're doing something for ourselves or doing something for somebody else, we should practice whatever the Buddha has taught specific for that situation. Okay. Yeah, one thing is we don't make scenes in public places. We don't make scenes. Yeah, so even when I was with my student who was dying and the doctor was trying to convert him, I didn't stomp in and say, "Get the out of here." I just walked over and, "Thank you, I will take over." And the look. Okay, so we practice what's appropriate for the situation. In some situations, we have to be leaders. In some situations, we have to be followers. And in some situations, like it happens sometimes, for example, at Soak, it was arranged beforehand who was going to pass things out, or who was going to stand up, and people forgot or something came up. They're not at the puja. And so you see that, there's an empty space. You don't just sit there and look and wait until somebody tells you to do something. If you see that, somebody's not there, there's something that needs to be done, you get up and help. Okay? Otherwise, it's very strange. It's like everybody's sitting around waiting to be served or something. Yeah. Similarly, when we're in situations, when you see people carrying heavy suitcases, or even suitcases that are not so heavy, you offer to help. You don't just say, "Boy, you're really strong. Thanks for doing that." Yeah, you want to carry mine too? No, you reach out to help. So, sometimes you're traveling and somebody you're with needs help putting something above. I'm usually the person who has to ask somebody to help, but other times I'm the person who helps somebody else to put something in the overhead compartment. One time I was in London and there was one lady, she didn't know English and she was trying to find her flight, and she didn't know what to do. So, I walked her wherever it was, where her terminal was. So when you see something that needs to be done, then you help, you step in, okay? When something doesn't need to be done, you don't butt in and push other people away, okay? Like, my teacher told me to bring him a cup of tea. This is the big thing when with your Tibetan lamas, he asked me to bring him a cup of tea. Get out of here, I'm making the cup of tea. Yeah. So, no, at those times you try to behave appropriately. Okay, so just, look around and see what's going on and try and figure out how to relate in this situation. If you're somewhere and there's a crying baby, then sometimes you can go up and, look at the baby and play with the baby. Sometimes that makes the baby cry more. If it does, you step away. But sometimes the baby shuts right up. It's like, who's this guy, And the mom, or sometimes the baby will play with you. You don't know. Yeah. So, you see. And sometimes on planes, you're sitting next to somebody with a baby and it's like the poor mother, she needs to stretch, she needs a break. I've held babies on flights. Yeah? I mean, that's, you're sitting next to somebody who needs help, that's what you do. Okay. So just, you look at what needs to be done. Oh, maybe it was in Denmark? And some man in a wheelchair was going across the street and the light was turning and his wheelchair wasn't cooperating. So I think I was with either Karen or with gas. And we just walked out in the middle of the street and, took his wheelchair and, brought it to where it needed to be. It's like, that's no great heroic thing. That's what you need to do when somebody needs help. So just to be aware of that stuff. Yeah, I'm always grateful when sometimes I get off flights and my carry-on tends to be heavy and you have to walk up. They don't always have, jetways. You have to walk upstairs. And, it's so nice when some big guy says, "Can I help you?" Otherwise, I'm like holding onto the banner and going step by step to get my suitcase up. Yeah. So, and then other times you see somebody else who's struggling to get something up and, they have one handle, you take the other handle and you help them walk up the stairs together. Okay. Then verse 100. So, I should strive to put into practice whatever has been taught for that situation. Another thing, when you go to find seats at a public teaching, okay, don't head for the front row immediately thinking, well, I'm a bhikshuni now, I'm going to go sit in front, or, even, I'm a shramanera now, I'm wearing robes, I'm going to go sit in front, so get out of here. No. You sit where there's a place. Sometimes people will say, "Oh, please go sit in front," and they'll help you find a seat or whatever. And then you go along and do that. But, you don't ever go around saying to people, "I'm a bhikshuni, so you should treat me like blah, 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 blah." It's just like, it's horrible when people do that, really horrible. Okay. So there is no such thing as something that is not learned by a bodhisattva. Thus, if I am skilled in living in this way, nothing will be non-meritorious. Okay, so bodhisattvas should be open to learning everything. Yeah. So, some situations require that you learn things that are not things you're interested in. Yeah, like where to place a building on the side of the hill so you don't have to bring in 300 truckloads of dirt. That's my task for today until it gets resolved. Or how to put radon systems in, or, there may be lots of things that you are just not interested in and that aren't your field of expertise, but you're in a situation and somebody has to do it. Okay, so you step up and you do it. However, if there are things that you don't know how to do, it's always best to ask somebody for help. Okay. So, my toaster wasn't working yesterday. So first I asked Venerable Jigme for her blessing for the toaster, because she looks at anything that I have that's broken and it behaves and it works well after that. So she did her blessing on the toaster. But then Venerable Losang took it and he fixed it like that. Okay. Me, I was sitting there. I shook it because I knew, I should get all the old stuff out of it. But I didn't know that there's a way to open the toaster from the bottom. I didn't know that there's magnets and something like that. He knew all of this. So, so he fixed it. And so I learned a little bit more about toasters. I still don't know exactly where the magnets are. So next time it doesn't break, next time it does break, I will ask for her blessing and him to pick it, to fix the toaster. Yeah. My computer, I tell you, when it doesn't work, I always call her for help, and it works for her. Yeah. So, yeah, me, working with stuff like that, it's like, yeah, I can give you a discourse on if it was, if it's produced by self, other, both, or causelessly, but I can't tell you how to fix it when it needs to be fixed. Okay? So you gotta go to the people who know what they're talking about when you need help. Okay? Was this toaster produced by self? Yeah. Was it initially in the Prakriti that the Samkhya's state exists, and did it manifest out of that, or did it manifest out of it existed in the metal beforehand and manifested out of that? You're not gonna have toast doing that. So there's times when you need to be practical, and there's times when you apply philosophy. Okay. So, yeah. So bodhisattvas should be open to learning everything. And when they talk about the perfection of wisdom, okay, they talk about, of course, the wisdom understanding the ultimate nature, but also, the wisdom in conventional areas. And so in ancient India, they talked about the 5 sciences, although these aren't really sciences. What are they? Poetry, grammar, reasoning, medicine, and some kind of crafts or something like that. Yeah. So, in modern day, it might be something like, plumbing and, electricity, car mechanics, and, but it's good to have other skills because we live in a world that requires those skills. Okay. So we're fortunate at the Abbey. We have quite a diversity of people who have knowledge in different areas. There's still a few areas where we're missing people. Yeah, we need people with certain skills. But, we're quite diverse, and a lot of people can do these things. And we have to learn what we don't know. Okay. So please learn what you don't know, and I will sit and direct you to do that. Right? Okay, glad you agree, because these things intimidate me. Although sometimes I nudge myself and I get myself going. Okay. So if we do that, then we will have a variety of skills, and we will be able to offer those skills according to the situation that we're in and help people fix things that are broken. Yeah, and we've had certain guests here who come who have different skills. And then, it's wonderful how they help us do things that we aren't able to do ourselves. And also, when it's saying, thus, if I am skilled in living this way, nothing will be non-meritorious. That's also referring to our motivation. Yeah. So if we know how to practice, how to develop a good motivation, then whenever there's something that needs to be done, whether it's something that we like doing or not, yeah, we can make it into a bodhisattva practice and transform our mind so that we're doing it with a happy mind instead of doing it with a mind that says, with a grumbling mind. Okay. And all it takes is just a change of our attitude. Okay. So whenever you find yourself saying, it's not fair, yeah, before that comes out of your mouth, stop and ask yourself, what mental factor is in my mind right now? Okay, we're going, Venerable Thubten Chodron has gone through mental factors. We're doing this on Friday night too. Stop and ask yourself, before you say it's not fair, what mental factor is in my mind? Okay, and then, look at that. And if it's a non-virtuous mental factor, then that is your chance to practice the Dharma and transform how you're looking at the situation so that you create virtue and so that your mind is much happier too. Okay. And then if you still have to do the task, then, you do it and you think, somebody's benefiting from this. When you're picking all the wild daisies, yeah, then, it's like, well, somebody's got to pick the daisies, otherwise they're going to take over the whole meadows. All the meadows. So we've got to do that. And so, you chip in and you help. I mean, picking the daisies is not great torment and suffering. Yeah. I mean, I would like to do that, but when the daisies are in the grass, it's bad news because I'm allergic to grass and everything goes crazy. Okay. When the daisies aren't in the grass, then, I can do some of that. So you see, and if you can do it, then you do it. I mean, it's not great suffering, is it? Yeah, stepping in and doing some chore. I mean, nobody's asking you to amputate your leg without anesthesia. Yeah, you're not in a battle for your life with, in a war situation. You're not in an airplane that's going down quickly. Yeah, what makes the situation so difficult? Our mind. That's the only thing that makes it difficult in so many situations. Okay, so just, stop and say, okay, I've been listening, teachings on the mental factors. What mental factor is this? Anger. Or some variety, it might be annoyance, irritation, belligerence. Okay. Well, what kind of karma am I creating? How am I influencing the people around me? Is this Bodhisattva's practice? Yes, I'm a wrathful Bodhisattva. Check again. Okay, questions?
I just had a question about that verse about suggesting that we recite the Sutra, the 3 heaps, 3 times by day and 3 times by night.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure there are many permutations of what that actually means, but
many
permutations of what that means, like do we do 3 in a row, or is it just suggesting that we...
It's just suggesting that you do it, There's different ways of doing it. It's just, you figure out what works for you.
In verse 95, you were talking about not making a scene in an airport or a public place.
Uh-huh.
How much should we speak about this to other people prior to seeing them, like our parents?
Give me an example.
Like, I know my mom runs up to me very excitedly and hugs me and,
Hug her back. Yeah. That's not to say, Mom, don't hug me in public places, I mean, this is what mothers do. Go along with it. Yeah.
Still do it in two different ways. I mean, we can throw ourselves back in return, or we can accept it and hug with, in a
Yeah.
reserved, reserved way.
You can have her not, Mom! Mom, I'm hungry. Feed me. And she conveniently has a whole meal in her bag. And the refrigerator in the car. Okay, yeah. So there's ways that we act.